The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with contemptuous whispers as James and Fiza entered through the massive crystalline doors. The human delegation looked impossibly small beneath the soaring architecture that had been designed to intimidate lesser species. Around them, representatives from dozens of worlds observed with barely concealed disdain. "Look at them," chittered Ambassador Veltar, his insectoid mandibles clicking with amusement. "So fragile. So primitive." The Corithian delegate, a towering reptilian creature with scales that shifted color with his emotions, leaned forward. "I still cannot believe the Council granted them an audience. What could these soft-skinned mammals possibly offer the galaxy?" James kept his expression neutral, though his jaw tightened slightly. Beside him, Fiza maintained perfect composure, her dark eyes scanning the assembly with quiet intelligence. They had both known this would be hostile territory. Earth's application to join the Galactic Council had been met with ridicule from the moment it was submitted. Supreme Chancellor, Therix, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form, materialized at the center of the chamber. His voice resonated through every mind present without need for translation. "The humans have requested membership in our alliance," Therix announced. "They claim their species possesses qualities that would benefit our confederation. We shall test this claim." A massive holographic display materialized above them, showing a desolate moon orbiting a dying star. The surface was scarred with deep crevasses and jagged rock formations. "Behold Zarian Prime," Therix continued. "For 3 standard cycles, the beast known as the Ravager has terrorized our mining operations there. It has killed 47 of our finest warriors. No weapon we possess can penetrate its hide. No strategy has proven effective against its cunning." The display zoomed in to show glimpses of the creature, a massive, wolf-like beast the size of a shuttlecraft with crystalline spines running along its back and claws that could slice through reinforced steel. "If your species is truly worthy," Therix declared, "then one of you will face the Ravager in single combat. Victory will grant you consideration for membership. Defeat." The being's form flickered ominously. "Well, there will be no defeat to recover from." Murmurs of anticipation rippled through the chamber. Several delegates were already making wagering gestures, clearly expecting entertainment rather than success. James stepped forward. "I'll do it." "No." Fiza's voice cut through his declaration like a blade. She moved past him, her slight frame somehow commanding attention from every being in the chamber. "I will face the Ravager." The chamber erupted in what could only be described as laughter, though the sounds varied wildly across species. The Corithian delegate's scales shifted to a mocking shade of purple. "The female?" Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "She weighs perhaps 50 kilograms. The Ravager's smallest claw is larger than her entire torso." Fiza turned to face the assembly, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "You judge us by your standards. That is your first mistake." Within hours, they were aboard a council transport heading for Zarian Prime. James paced the small cabin while Fiza sat in meditation, her breathing slow and controlled. "Fiza, this is insane," James said for the 10th time. "Let me do this. Instead, I'm stronger, I'm bigger, slower, more obvious." She opened her eyes and looked at him with a slight smile. "James, you're thinking like them. Like a Corithian who solves problems with brute force, or a Veltarian who overwhelms with numbers. We're human. We think differently." The moon's surface was as desolate as promised. The council observers maintained a safe distance while Fiza was deposited at the edge of a canyon system where the Ravager was known to hunt. She carried only standard council-issue combat gear, a plasma rifle, energy shield, and basic survival equipment. The beast found her within minutes. It emerged from a crevasse like a nightmare-given form, its crystalline spines catching the light of the distant star. The Ravager was even larger than the hollows had suggested, easily 4 meters at the shoulder, with eyes like burning coals and fangs that dripped with bioluminescent venom. It charged immediately, crossing 50 meters in seconds. The watching delegates leaned forward in anticipation of swift carnage. Fiza didn't run. She didn't raise her weapon. Instead, she did something none of them expected. She dropped to one knee and began striking the rocky ground in a steady rhythm with the butt of her rifle. The Ravager skidded to a halt mere meters from her, confusion replacing bloodlust in its ancient eyes. Tap, tap, tap. Fiza continued the rhythm, her eyes locked on the creatures. She had spent the journey reviewing every piece of data on the Ravager, noting details that the Council's military minds had dismissed as irrelevant. The creature's attack patterns, its retreat behaviors. Most importantly, its territorial markings. The rhythm she was creating matched the subsonic frequency. The Ravager used to mark its territory, a sound that warned others of its kind to stay away. But Fiza wasn't warning. She was apologizing. Slowly, she reached into her pack and withdrew a standard emergency flare. With deliberate movements, she activated it and tossed it into the canyon behind her. The bright light illuminated something. The Council forces had somehow missed. Dozens of smaller shapes huddled in the depths. Cubs. The Ravager wasn't terrorizing the miners out of malice. It was protecting its young from the constant intrusions into its territory. The creature's posture shifted, aggression melting into uncertainty. Fiza continued her rhythm, then slowly stood and backed away from the canyon edge. The Ravager watched, her every movement, but made no move to attack. With careful, deliberate steps, Fiza retreated to a position well outside what she had calculated as the creature's territorial boundary. Only then did she raise her rifle, not to fire, but to signal the observers. The Ravager, satisfied that the threat to its cubs had withdrawn, gave one final earth-shaking roar and disappeared back into the canyon depths. The silence in the council chamber upon their return was profound. Finally, Chancellor Thyrix's energy form pulsed with what might have been approval. The human female did not defeat the Ravager in combat, observed the Corithian delegate, though his scales had shifted to a more respectful shade of blue. No, Fiza replied calmly. I solved the actual problem instead of fighting the symptom. The Ravager will no longer attack your miners if you relocate your operations outside its territorial boundaries. You'll find several alternative sites that are actually richer in the minerals you seek. Veltar's mandibles clicked slowly. This was not expected. James smiled for the first time since their arrival. You called us weak because we don't look like your warriors. But we never needed to be strong like you. We learned to be smart, to adapt, to find solutions you never considered because you were too busy trying to prove your strength. Supreme Chancellor Thyrix's form brightened. The humans have passed their test. Their application for council membership will proceed to full consideration. As they left the chamber, James could hear the delegates behind them, their conversations, now tinged with something that sounded remarkably like respect. Perhaps, he heard Veltar mutter to his companion, we have underestimated what weak actually means. Fiza smiled. They're learning. That's the first step toward understanding why humanity might just be exactly what this galaxy needs.